Hello, today I am giving my review of the book Yoko by David Sheff. This is a biography about Yoko Ono that was published in 2025, so it's pretty recent. I decided from now on, whenever I do a review of a biography, I want to say a little bit about the author and their relation to the subject to show you their qualifications for who or what they're writing about. Like, some music biographies I've read were written by journalists, people who have interviewed the subject. So I'll tell you a bit about the author first. David Sheff is a longtime friend of Yoko's. He actually interviewed Yoko Ono and John Lennon very shortly before John's death, I think maybe like a month before. And he has another book called All We Are Saying that is the last major interview, so I guess it's just the interview in the book. I think I'd like to read that as well, after hearing about it and having read this. I believe when he interviewed them was when he first met them, but he stayed in Yoko's life long after John died, so it wasn't like he didn't know her or that he only met her once. He shares some stories and experiences with and about her in the book, and he knows her well. I'll read you the author bio in the book. There is a photo of him, and it says, David Sheff is the author of multiple books, including the #1 New York Times bestselling memoir Beautiful Boy, which was turned into a movie in 2018 starring Steve Carell and Timothée Chalamet. His work has appeared in the New York Times, Rolling Stone, Wired, Fortune, and elsewhere. His piece for the New York Times, My Addicted Son, received an award from the American Psychological Association for outstanding contribution to advancing the understanding of addictions. When I found out that this book existed, I definitely wanted to read it. I've liked the Beatles for a long time, and I didn't know much about Yoko Ono before reading this book, but I never felt that I disliked her. I know a lot of people do for multiple reasons, but I never felt that way, and I wanted to develop my own opinion rather than just going with what everyone else said, especially when I don't know her. And after reading this book, I still don't know her personally, but I did learn a lot about her from this. I was definitely open and even excited to read this and learn more about her. I knew almost nothing that the book talks about. I knew very little about her before reading this, but from what little I did know, like I said, I never had anything against her, and I found her a little interesting. Whether you like her or not, I find her to be a unique and interesting individual, and that idea was definitely a lot further strengthened after finishing this. Aside from the fact that I already really enjoy reading biographies, I wanted to be open to learning more about her, her life, and her art, thinking that this book would help me gain a better understanding of it. I always try to be an open-minded person, and before reading this, I had seen some things on Instagram, like some people's comments, offering kinder and more sympathetic perspectives about Yoko, which I appreciated. It was nice to see people be kind about her. And I'm just not really a hateful person, so even if I did dislike things about her, I wouldn't be spreading hate on the internet. I wanted to learn more about Yoko beyond just the general image that she has received and been portrayed as. I love learning a lot of information about one person, especially if I already found that person interesting or I like their art. And I guess I like to try to understand them, their life, and their actions as much as I can, because I'm interested in psychology and I like to try to think and make the connections about how things they've been through affected how they behave later on, and how it goes into their work if they're an artist. And I like the Beatles, and I read a lot of smaller biographies like the Who Was books. I read a lot of those. If you've seen my other videos, you may know that. So it was really nice to read a biography that was much bigger. Like, sometimes I do read bigger, longer ones that are like more adult, such as this one. It's really nice to read a really long, in-depth biography and get a lot of information about that person or subject. So I really enjoyed this. So this book is split into 3 parts. The first part is Yoko's life before she met John Lennon, and then when she met him and their life together. And then the third part is her life after he died. But there are chapters within those parts, so it's not just like 3 big chapters. I think this book could be interesting to some people who are fans of the Beatles and are open-minded enough to read this. Of course, you don't have to, but I think that if you're willing to give it a try, I would recommend it. I think this book does a good job at talking about and explaining a lot of the art that she did, and different kinds of art, from the works that she performed to exhibitions in art galleries, to the music she recorded, and more. It also talks a lot about avant-garde art, which I didn't know very much about before, and now I'm curious to explore it more. It especially talks a lot about the avant-garde scene in New York and Japan at the time that she was in those places. Before I read this, from what little I knew about her, I did already agree with and felt interested in some of her views. And I think that especially for those who don't like her, I think when it comes to this book, regardless of how you feel, it does have a lot of history, and the events that happened and the things she did are just a part of history now. And I generally enjoy learning about history, so that was another interesting thing about this. So this book goes over a lot. Some of the things it goes over are her childhood, talks about how she had distant parents and often struggled with loneliness, living through World War II, like she was born in Japan, so She experienced and witnessed some things at that time, and it talks about how that war was the start of her opinions on war in general. It goes over her moving to America as a kid and then back to Japan, how she turned to art, and not just music, but other kinds of art as well, as ways to deal with the things that she had been through. The book goes over the performances she did and the kinds of receptions she got to them, how people interpreted them, enjoyed or didn't enjoy them. It goes over some of the artist friends she had and her experience with college. It goes over her 2 marriages before John Lennon and then when she met him, and their life together, their relationship and work together, their separation and getting back together, the child they had together, the kind of reception she got from fans and the public when she and John became public, but also just in general about her over the years. The book goes over the books that she wrote, the activism she did, what she went through with her daughter from a previous marriage. Basically, her daughter had been missing for, I think, over 10 years, and she was separated from her. I think the book is very personal. It doesn't just talk about her work, but about her relationships, such as the relationships with her children. It goes over her spiritual practices, the things she believed in. She was really into tarot cards, psychics, things like that. The book goes over John's death and the aftermath of that, the way that people took advantage of her afterwards, such as the threats she received, the theft, the exploitation from many people, the work she made afterwards. That section of the book was very sad, but admittedly very interesting to read and learn more about. For me, especially to see how she dealt with such a loss, one of those ways being music. Later on in the book, it talks about her success with her music for dance clubs. And near the end of the book, it also talks about how, as technology advanced, how she used it to communicate her art and messages, how she used the internet and social media, basically her life up until this point. She has definitely been through a lot. It also goes over if she was truly the one to break up the Beatles, as that is something a lot of people say about her. This book makes an effort to set the record straight with what the author knows, and basically dismantles that idea. It doesn't just say that she didn't do that, it goes into what happened. I think the book was good at describing a day in her life, during certain parts of her life, what she did. Not so much later on. I don't think it says a whole lot about how she was feeling her day later on, but it could have been with some of the same things. But it still says what she did later on in her life. I found it interesting learning about her mental health struggles and the coping mechanisms she developed. I thought it was really interesting learning about how art and imagination helped save her. Before reading this, I knew she had been through a lot, but this book taught me even more that I didn't know, and so that was one of the things I found interesting about it, just wanting to know how she coped with everything and got through it. One thing I found particularly interesting was about her visualization techniques, which she started as a child in the war. She came from a very wealthy family, but once the war started, then they were struggling, and so sometimes they would go a while without eating, but she would use visualization techniques with her brother and imagine food, and she said that was how she got through that time. So that was really interesting, and that was a technique that she used all throughout her life. There are a lot of quotes from her in this book. There are quotes from John Lennon and quotes from other people who knew her. There were also quotes from people who liked and or understood her art, so it offers some positive perspectives on it. So I wanted to talk about if this biography felt biased at all, and if so, how biased. I think that for the most part, the author did a good job at just stating facts, which is what he said he wanted to do, just stating what happened. I do think, however, it does feel a little biased, which may have been hard for him not to do, I get it. Ultimately, I think it's a good thing that the book was written by someone who knows Yoko very well, but I felt that perhaps he threw in some opinions, or sometimes would use an adjective to describe some of her work that felt a bit opinionated. For the most part, though, I think it's good at stating facts, and it also states some of the not as good things that she did without trying to justify them. It just states them. So I don't feel that the author was constantly trying to defend her, but ultimately she is in this book portrayed positively. But I thought that the book felt honest. I think that people are not 100% good or 100% bad, especially when they have multiple facets to their life and have lived a long life and have done so much and so many different things. I think there is a lot to Yoko as an individual and about her life, and this book is mainly about telling the story of her and her life, honestly and fairly. I think that my opinion of her and about this book is less about whether or not I think she's a good person, and more just about finding her interesting as a subject. She really did a lot of challenging how people view art, what can be considered art, and who can make art, who can participate in it. And a lot of her artwork, it would involve encouraging the audience to participate in order for the artwork to be finished. The book also goes over some of the racism and misogyny that she faced. She also did a lot of feminist work. Another of the many interesting things in this book was it goes over kind of like the story behind some of the album covers of the albums she made. I don't think all of them, but some of them, and that was interesting. I just really like art and learning about it, learning, for example, like what a song is about or a story behind it or just facts about the creation of it. I think part of why she is so interesting is because she has had such a long, eventful life. At the time of recording this, she is 92 years old. I have been listening to a lot of Yoko's music and John Lennon's solo music as a result of reading this. Before, whenever I would try, I usually didn't get very far in it, but reading this definitely helps me understand and appreciate it more. Now, just because there is a meaning behind it doesn't mean everybody has to enjoy it or that it has to sound good to everybody. I think that music is the kind of thing that, it's subjective. Some people are going to like it and understand it and some will not. And even if you understand it, that doesn't mean that you have to like it. But for me, I have become more tolerant of it, and some of her songs I actually quite enjoy. It's very unique, and that's part of what makes it so interesting to listen to. I enjoy reading biographies and then learning about a certain song or event or performance or something like that, and then I can look it up and watch it or listen to it. It introduces me to new things where I think that I will want to check that out. As I said, it's nice to know what a song is about, so I liked learning what some of her songs were about from this book, and then listening to them, knowing what they're about, I think makes that a more enjoyable experience for me and more powerful. Another idea about her music that I really feel that I learned and developed from reading this is I think there is genuine and authentic emotion in it. I think it does contain passion compared to if she were just trying to make like vapid poppy songs just to be catchy and popular, which is what some people do, but I don't really feel that that's what her music is. One of the great things about books is that they offer you new perspectives and can really change your perspective on something. After reading this, I definitely view her music way differently than I used to. And like I said, you don't have to like it, so if you were to read this book, that doesn't mean you would have to like or appreciate her music because it has a meaning or because she's been through a lot. Like, I don't think it should be done out of pity necessarily. For example, on YouTube, if you look up videos of her singing, one of the main videos that will pop up is a performance of her song We're All Water, which is a song I've grown to like that I probably thought sounded very unpleasant at first, but not only do I like the message, but I've grown to it. I'm very used to her various noises at this point, and not all of her songs are that wild. Some are actually quite soft and gentle, so she's not always screaming. But in that video of the live performance, there are many comments that are mostly people making fun of her, or some people just being straight up hateful. Like, there are jokes and memes, and there are people saying things that I feel that they shouldn't. Of course, that is the internet, but my point is that I just see it differently now. It's just good knowing what that song and other songs are about. And now I feel that I understand them a lot better. Even though I am not her and have not been through the exact things she has experienced, some of our ideas about the world are the same and they're shared. And I feel that I can be sympathetic and understand and feel her passion, even though I am not feeling her lived experience directly firsthand. The point of avant-garde art is that it is experimental. So yeah, some of it I read I thought sounded pretty cool, and then some of it I was like, I personally probably wouldn't enjoy it as much, but that's the whole point. She tried out different things that other people didn't. Her music is certainly not for everyone, and that is okay. Personally, I'm glad that I'm enjoying it more now, and I still haven't listened to all her music. I don't know if I'll listen to all of it, but I have been going through a lot of her albums and stuff. I think the experience of listening to her music, just the way that I experience it, has changed after reading this and just learning so much about her and about the creation of some of those songs. Personally, I find her inspiring. I felt that this book was pretty well written. I think that it ties together events pretty well. I think the information given is well organized and put together. I also like a lot of Japanese culture and things from Japan, so that might be part of why I found her interesting already, the fact that she's Japanese. And I really haven't listened to a lot of Japanese music, but this book reminded me that I'd like to listen to more of it, discover more of it, and just listen to more foreign music in general. I found this book really interesting. I really enjoyed reading it. It was a great time. I really enjoyed learning more about her and the way that she thinks and sees the world and the things she believes in. This book also has some photos in it with some captions. I found those really interesting, some of which I think I had seen before, but many I had not. That was a really nice touch. This book is actually a little bit shorter than it looks because all this little section is just notes, like saying where a quote from an interview and things like that are from. So really, the book is this long, which when you put it together it makes it look just slightly longer. Nowadays, after having read this, how I feel about her art and music is definitely am more interested in it, and I like it more now, and I'm interested in learning more about her through other things as well, which I've been doing. She's definitely not one of my favorite artists ever, but I do think that I will probably like her more over time. With certain music, Some definitely takes a while to grow on me, or certain songs, and if I like an artist enough and find them interesting and know that there's something there, I will listen to certain songs or certain albums many times. Like some I'll just give one chance, but with some artists I do listen to them multiple times, and then on the second, third, whatever listen, I will end up liking a song that I didn't really like before. That happens a lot, and I could see that happening with her, so I will continue doing research about her. And I definitely want to read her books Grapefruit and Acorn now. I think that those sound pretty interesting. I wanted to give learning more about her a chance, and I'm glad that I did. I personally don't believe she has deserved all the hate she has received. I'm giving this book 5 stars. If I can give like a point rating, like 4 point something, then I did give this 4.75 on Storygraph, mainly just due to the slight bias I felt was in it, but on Goodreads it was 5 stars since I can only do whole stars. And BookTube doesn't really have an official rating, I just say whatever I gave it on Goodreads, but yeah, we'll give it 5 stars in terms of the fact that I thought it was well written and how much I enjoyed it. If you've read this book, or you have any thoughts about this subject or anything related to it, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And thank you for watching.